So what's this first one? Well, that first one is just that single point, so that's 0 right there. But then if we're going from A to B, what region are we looking at right there? Yeah, and you're just putting them in relative order, so you're not trying to find the exact area because you don't know you don't know how to do that yet. I mean, you could use the Riemann sum program on your calculator. Do some people do that, by the way? You could have used the Riemann sum calculator on your calculator, the Riemann sum program if you wanted to, but you don't need to. That's just big positive. Do you see how that's big positive, everybody? So then what about this one from B to C? Where's that going to be from B to C? That's this area right here. So that's going to be, what is it? It is small negative, exactly. Small negative, right there, small negative. So then this one is from 0 to B. We had A to B, and we had, oh, but isn't A and 0 are the same, right? So A to B is the same as 0 to B, so these are the same right there. And then what about from 0 to C? What's the relationship going to be? What's going to happen? You have this whole area, but then what do you take away? You take a little bit, right? You take a little bit. So what's the biggest one going to be? What's the biggest one going to be? Oh, what they want put these one from least. What's the smallest one going to be? Which one? Which one? The third one, right? It's a poor way to label it. I'll give you that. Yeah. It's the third one, right? Because it's the only one that's negative. So just to put this in perspective, we're going from negative. Then the next one is what? 0. And then what's the next one? Big positive minus a little, right? Which one is that? That's this one, right? That's 5. That's 5 right there. And what was 0? 0 was I, or 1, or whatever one was saying. And then this one was I, like this. And then what's after that? And they're the same, right? There's 2 of them, right? It's I and IB because they are the same. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah. Relative order is just going to be about size. Relative order is just going to be about size. So literally shade which region is which, and it should be apparent. Now, keep in mind, everybody, if I ask you, this is the one thing you can remember about this one. If I ask you a question like this, the relative sizes that you're comparing should be really obviously different. What I mean by that is this. Here's like an unfair question I could ask you. Like, here's a graph like this. If I said, what's the integral from here to there? Or like, or not even, I don't know, something even worse, like here. Like, let's say I asked you, like, what's this integral equal to? Why is that an unfair question? It's so close to being the same, right? You're not sure if is that 0? Is it slightly negative? Is it slightly positive? You wouldn't know the answer to that. But let's say I asked you, oh, what's the integral from there all the way to here? What would you say the answer to that is? Pretty negative, right? Basically, with relative comparison, you're going to have 5 different things like really positive, slightly positive, 0, slightly negative, or really negative, and then small differences between the two. That's it. That's it. How do you feel about the rest of this? Were there any others you wanted to ask about? You guys good at using your calculator to graph and find things like this? Yeah? Yeah? Oh, by the way, we mentioned this before, but what do you know? If you have really nice zeros, what does that tell you about the original equation? What could you do with this? Like this one right here, what does that factor into if those are the zeros? Factors into 3 things. What are they? X plus 1, very good. And yes. It's just something to remember. Nice factors means nice zeros and vice versa. Go ahead. So we have something like that. So we have, using the wrong colors here, but 5x plus 10, or 5t plus 10. So draw shade for me what the area looks like that we're calculating on this. We're going from 0 to 5. Yay. It's a lot of shading right there. A lot of shading. Nice. I was doing this, I'm doing it really quickly. I would say, okay, I'm going to find this area and add it to that triangle right there. So what's the area right there? 5 times 10 is, as Lizzie just said, 50. And then that triangle right there, what's the area of that triangle right there? It's 1/2 what? 5 times what? 25, right? So what's that going to be? 112.5? Yeah. 5 times 20? Yeah, it's 100 over 5. So what's the total area going to be? 50 plus what? 125.5. So what is it? 112.5? Like that? Yeah. So what does that mean? What units are on that, by the way? What units? If we just integrated that, what unit would that be? Is that a measurement of velocity? No, it's a measurement of Well, displacement, right? So it's distance. It's gonna be the same units, right? And what are the units of distance we're using?
No, aren't you dividing by 2 instead of
5. Yes, it is definitely 2. Thank you, Lizzie. It is 2. So it would be feet. Yes. So that would be how far the person has traveled after 5 seconds. Is it 5 seconds? Yep. How far the person traveled in, because that's the height from here to here, Nick. This distance from here to here is 25. How far the person traveled in the first what? 5 seconds. Good? Okay, so this is what I'd like you to try now, and what does that mean? What does that represent? What units is that in? Yeah, what units is that in? Yeah.
the price of the house in dollars.
It's dollars, so it's the price of the what?
Years of the house in dollars.
House in dollars what?
After 5 years.
After 5 years, yeah.
Wait, isn't that?
Suppose the rate at which the value of your house is increasing is given by R of t, where t is the years after 2000 and R of t is the dollars. So let's just check that for a second. Something might seem a little off. What is it going to be?
It's the rate at which the price of the house is increasing.
The rate at which the price of the house is increasing. So it's not the actual price of the house, it is the rate of price increase per year. Rate of price increase per year in dollars of the house. Does that make sense, everybody? What was the giveaway that what we had before was a little bit off?
It's really cheap.
Yeah, it's really cheap. Generally speaking, you're like, oh yeah. So basically, it was at that specific instant, the price per year increase is $10,466 per year. Okay. So, anybody able to get the integral or an estimate of the integral for the next one? How many divisions did you use, Calvin?
I used 100.
N equals 100, it's a good one. And did you use left?
Yeah.
Or left? Okay, excellent. I like that. What'd you get?
47,196.580.
So what does that mean? If this is, be very careful. This is the integral from 0 to 5. What does that mean? It's the integral of the rate of change of the price of the house. What does that mean?
The value of the house in 2005, it has increased a total of 47,000.
So for 5 years. So what does that mean? It means that is the overall what? Overall price increase of the house from when to when?
2005.
From 2002, 2005. Yes. So that's how much the price of the house has increased. That's how much the price of the house has increased. Does that make sense? Everybody? Remember how we did it before when it was the rate of a car? It's the distance traveled. That is the distance traveled of the price of the house. Like, look, ready? What does this represent? This represents the price of the house right here. Right? Do we have any idea what the starting price was? Does this say anything about the starting price of the house? No. Well, what can we say? We can add up all of this, and if we add up all of this, what do we get? The total what? The total price increase. The total price increase. Do we have any idea what the price of the house actually is? No, because we don't have any sort of initial value. If I said to you, the price of the house was $100,000, what's the price of the house in 2005 now? $147,196. Does everybody see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have no idea what the original price of the house is. In terms of real, you probably don't have maybe you have a guess at this. Does this seem like a realistic price increase in 5 years? What do you think? Well, based
on the area.
exactly. It depends on the area, the house. I mean, what happens if this was a $5 million house? Could it? Absolutely. Yeah. Housing markets are all over. It's weird. Housing prices do strange things. Generally speaking, what was the common wisdom until 2008? Anybody know? There was a common belief about the housing market. It was always going to go up. And guess what happened? It went down quickly. Anybody know why?
Because
There's like 10 big reasons.
the
So.
mortgages or the loans, the mortgage-backed loans were filled with terrible.
So why was that a problem?
No.
Because
super complex. Effectively, what was going on, everybody? Has anybody learned about the housing crisis?
Watch The Big Short.
Read the book. There was a fantastic dramatization of the book. Information's very, very close. It's awesome. Read the book. Many things contributed, but basically the biggest one was this. You know what the biggest problem, in summarized in one situation? Pretend you're the bank, okay? Hi, how you doing?
Good.
I make like $25,000 a year. Can I get a loan for like $450,000? And you said, yeah, sure, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm now living in my $500,000 home, but I have to pay a mortgage. Guess what I can't do after a little bit about a time? Can't pay the mortgage. And then all of these things that were bunched together, these mortgage payments were bunched together into these things that banks made money off of. These things failed, and the banks failed completely. Yeah. So.
Weren't they like selling houses? They couldn't pay the mortgage and they'd sell a house for like $500,000. It was $400,000. Sell it for $500,000.
There was all sorts of things going on, but effectively, if you want my analysis, I would say it's a disassociation between the people making the decisions and the people living the consequences. Like huge dissociation, like incredible dissociation. Anyway, we can talk about that at length, but we're not going to. Okay. Yeah, sure. You saw it over here? He was like, I see the charger. No, we can talk about the housing crisis. If you want another book to read, Michael Lewis, the guy who wrote The Big Short, wrote something called Journey Through the New Third World, and he talks about Iceland, Ireland, Greece, Germany, and the United States, 3 countries that have failed economies who failed for different reasons, and why. Iceland failed because a whole bunch of fishermen decided they could do banking. Guess what they couldn't do? Banking. Ireland decided to build houses, and they built a lot of them. They actually had a point where there were more houses than there were like people in Ireland. And guess what happened? It failed. And then in Greece, a myriad of different things, like a tax base that doesn't work, a pension system that doesn't work, failed. And then he used those examples to show like why like Germany and the United States aren't as stable as we pretend to be. Yeah, your question?
I typed in right rectangle.
Yep.
Instead of left on that one, and then I got your number.
Cool.
Mine like switched. Why is it like that?
There's 2 reasons. One, did you do n equals 100?
Yeah.
There's a chance that it's so many divisions that it's gotten so close together that the decimals will end in the same place, even though they're different numbers.
If the numbers are like very close, what do you set
It
this?
depends. Yeah, if I'm asking you for an estimate, and if I ask you for an estimate, and n is 100, you can use left or right. I would prefer you use left, just for common purposes. That's right. Generally speaking, when you do n equals 100, you're going to be so close, no matter which one you choose, that it's not going to matter.
Okay.
Another thing, don't round until the end if you can help it. Okay, everybody don't round until the end. Some of you did that on the quiz and it hurt you. Okay. There's something up here that is the coolest thing you're going to learn today. Besides, partly why the housing market failed. There's 5 letters up there. Anybody want to point them out? Hey, look. So type this into your calculator right here. Type that in right there. Type that in into y1. Yay, y1. Int, what was it? y1, comma x, comma, what's your lower limit? 0, and what's your upper limit? 10.